Hi, I'm Bob Groves. I'm the director of the U.S. Census Bureau, and I was here at ARF describing some of the results of the 2010 census. There are some big takeaways, I think. First of all, as a nation, our rate of growth is slowing down, 9.7% over the last 10 years. This is the slowest growth rate over a 10-year period since the Great Depression in this country. It's not unusual. A lot of developed countries are tailing off on their growth rate. The second big message of the 2010 census, I think, is the fantastic growth of the Hispanic population, both due to higher fertility rates of those who are native-born and also immigration of the Hispanic population, dominantly from Mexico. And then I think there's another takeaway that has to do with the suburbanization of minority groups, moving out of core cities into the suburbs. That's probably going to change the suburbs, and it's also going to change those who are moving to the suburbs. So this is going to be a phenomenon we all ought to watch over the coming years. The growth states tend to be in the south and the west of the country, and states growing at a smaller rate tend to be in the northeast, Midwest. In the last 10 years, we have grown at a 9.7% rate. 2000 was 281 million. This year, we're 309 million. We spent between $300 and $400 million advertising to the American public. Now, why did we do this? We did this for business reasons, as it were. 1% increase in the return rate of a census questionnaire saves us $85 million of knocking on doors. So if we could get those kind of gains, we could make this pay for itself. I am convinced from the data we've collected that this advertising indeed shifted enough behavior that we saved money in the long run. Of the 300 to 400 million that we spent, our business decision had to do with the calculus that says every 1% increase in the response rate yields an $85 million savings, mainly from not paying people to knock on doors. So the question that all of us need to ask is, did we save more money in knocking on doors than we spent on that 300 and 400 million? We'll never know that for sure because there were a lot of other things going on. Our evidence, as we can gather it, is that the message got through and it changed behaviors. So one result of advertising, as well as all sorts of operational efficiencies, is we returned to the Treasury $1.9 billion at the end of this enterprise. That was about 25% of this year's budget. We're quite pleased about that.
So actually, you were one of the biggest advertisers in the U.S. in 2010.
We were, I believe. I think there are a lot of implications this decade with regard to targeting mechanisms. We now have data that will be produced annually from the American Community Survey that will be given freely to advertisers that allow them to do geographical and ethnic targeting in a way they could never do before with up-to-date data. What I would do if I were an advertiser would be to study patterns within different geographical areas and use those data to target messages and in-language media buys for areas that have large non-English populations, non-English speaking populations. We'll be giving out those data annually. There's another interesting subpopulation, and that is the subpopulation that checked on the census form 2 races, a multiracial self-identity. I think this is still a phenomenon that's a single digit in terms of percentages, but it's growing at a rate of 30 to 50% state by state. This is a very interesting population because many of them have their feet in two cultures that may be two different target audiences for a product or services. They should be great translators across those cultures for focus group membership. They should be great informants for the advertising industry, I think. There are a lot of people who are checking both white and black. They have white relatives and they have black relatives. They are part of the white culture and the black culture. And they are great translators between those two cultures. But you could use any other combination. These people who are walking part of their life in different cultures are going to be great translators for advertisers on how to get to both of those cultures and whether you need different messages to the different cultures. So one of the issues that arises from these data is a question about whether national advertising is dead in some sense. In the 2010 census, we had 6 different languages in the questionnaire. We advertised in 28 different languages. We had language assistance guides in 59 different languages. Language is an issue with regard to reaching out to target markets in a way that has never been before. I note that the foreign-born population percentage in this year is going to be higher than it's been since the 1920s. We are a diverse population. So I think the first question that needs to be posed by advertisers is how do they get to those diverse markets effectively, efficiently? We note that many of these language subgroups and cultural subgroups have their own cable networks, and that's certainly a medium that's very targeted. Digital media allows one cheaply to target. I think on geographical areas, when one is looking at local market advertising, really appealing to data that's fresh, timely, to look at the ethnic and language diversity of the area is now a necessary step before you build your advertising campaign for a smaller unit. One implication of the growth of the multicultural population in the United States, it seems to me, is that targeting for single cultures using a single message will, as this population grows, become less and less effective. We need to know how a particular race ethnic group is blending with other race ethnicities in order to target messages that fit both cultures.